I did a video on it, and I was thinking, how is this not a fad? And then I had a couple of
It's
people say,
clearly a
well,
fad. It's
yeah,
clearly a sex lobotomy.
it's just
We're gonna have a lot of
kids.
very regretful people.
Yeah, absolutely. Just it's what they used to be into vampires, and now they want to be trans kids, and I worry
Can you
for their
imagine if we had
futures.
let them transition kids into being vampires? Like if we'd actually let them attempt to do that
Yeah,
to cure
I'm a
their
vampire now.
twilight dysphoria.
Probably be less damaging though, I feel.
It depends on whose blood.
Oh yeah, well maybe they're not the blood. Well, yeah, but a couple of fangs, they could have a
Socially
fang.
transition to vampire. Like they don't drink the
Yeah,
blood. That's medical transition.
yeah,
They only
exactly.
socially
Yeah,
transition, so they file the teeth down.
yeah. Some contact
No going
lenses.
outside anymore.
Yeah, that's most kids. They're halfway there already. Never go, don't go outside. Ruin your teeth. It'll be perfect.
I don't know any other vampire stereotypes.
So tell me about the Jenningses. For those that don't know, a lot of people I think over here are not too familiar with the Jennings is because it wasn't a huge hit here like it kind of was in the States.
Mm.
So obviously you had Jazz, who was, I don't know, 3 or 4 when they started.
Right. Yeah. So Jazz Jennings supposedly wanted to wear his hair in pigtails when he was like 2. And so they took him to a gender therapist who held up 2 dolls that had like, and I have a picture in one of the episodes I have on this, just Cabbage Patch Kid level complexity genitalia representations on these 2 dolls. And so cousin Debbie, the sex therapist, which is my understanding is who actually diagnosed him, was like,
God.
which one are you? Are you a boy or a girl? And he pointed to the boy, and which one do you want to be? And he pointed to the girl, and it's like,
And that was it.
yeah, and that was it. And so the rest is history. And so he's been fast tracked ever since. And he got to be on like 2020 when he was like 5, and he was on some Australian or New Zealand. I can't remember. I've gotten in trouble for confusing the two.
Oh, don't confuse those two. Yeah.
I can't recall. But it's and just all these adults acting like it's the craziest thing in the world that a boy wanted to wear a dress, that's newsworthy, it's some special unheard of thing. This poor child's just being given this idea, and then so they at the time they were going around on Rosie O'Donnell, etc., and claiming that he had been afraid to leave the house and having these horrible fits and everything if they didn't let him wear the outfits, and that's why they had to take him to the gender therapist, and he had to go on the medication because they would rather have a trans daughter than a dead child, and the child was suffering, and he 41% suicide, and so on and so forth. But since then, they put him on the puberty blockers at 11, and now they're saying that his mental health symptoms started when he was 12. So I don't know what happened to the other story about them happening before they decided to enroll him in the sex experiment. Because now they're very adamant that the problems all started when he was 12, and that further it is unrelated to why he needed surgery. It's just some unrelated thing. He just has depression, totally unrelated. I was shocked when I saw her interview with T.S. Madison for the new season of I Am Jazz, saying that the measure of the proof that they haven't permanently or temporarily screwed him up is that he's still alive.
That's yeah.
I like how even if that was said by the friend of Jeanette, I forget what her name is, but apparently in her mind, if she kills Jazz, it still might only be temporary. Okay, now we've screwed it up, but I think we can fix it.
Yeah. Oh God. Okay. That's brilliant.
This is also a show that is just outwardly, very openly propagandistic and lionizes murderers, actual like literal murderers.
In what way?
They made a propaganda mural for Black trans people whose lives mattered, they said, and one of the people was this woman named Toni McDade, and they made it out like she was killed by the police, like she was just killed for
Okay.
being a black trans person.
Yeah.
But really, she was killed because she kept trying to attack her ex-girlfriend's son, breaking into his
Oh.
apartment. Then got on Facebook Live and explained that she was going to kill the son and then die in a shootout with police. And then she, in fact, the next day did stab the son to death. And then she pointed a gun at police on camera, and now she's dead.
Those naughty police. I can't believe they did that.
Racists,
Yeah, bloody racist.
transphobes,
I can't
Officer
believe
Turf.
that. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which,
But
have you
now there's
seen?
just a mural for this trans kid youth center, and it's like, is she really the person you want? You want to be holding up?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few murals going around the world at the moment of people that might not necessarily be as bad as her, but maybe they're not quite the angels that you would
Yeah,
think of them to be. Um,
just cancel murals. Just assume they're bad.
yeah, I feel at this
Um,
point we kind of have to. Um,
um, oh, but to finish up with the jazz story briefly is that the big
mm,
thing with her is that she then or he then had they put him on estrogen to convert him to try to experiment with his hormones. They have the doctors on TV talking about how they've deliberately made it so that he has no estrogen or no testosterone in his system
mhm.
through the use of the puberty blockers and the estrogen. And then they gave him the vaginoplasty when he was 17, and because he had been on the puberty blockers, his genitalia had not developed, and so he didn't have enough tissue to actually do the vaginoplasty. So when they do it, it more or less popped, more or less broke open, and he had to have like many other right
I'm
and many
struggling.
follow-ups. And during the surgery, like the surgeons were arguing about whether they should cut something. Is this a sulcus or is it a scar?
Oh
If you
my
don't have to
god.
cut that, why would you cut that? It's like, good question.
Leave it alone. Shouldn't be in there in the first place, for God's sake. Jesus.
But
It's yeah, it's all fun.
but I do
I
wonder
wonder.
whether Jazz's weight is related to the lack of testosterone, because
Yeah.
testosterone is really important for men for their pancreatic cell function. It's like glucose metabolism is known to be very sexually dimorphic. So testosterone will damage a woman's metabolism for glucose, but will not enough will damage a man.
Oh right, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Um,
it was interesting to read about that. The
yeah,
pancreatic beta cell
but I did
testosterone. It was
wonder.
with they gave testosterone to men with hypogonadism and type 2 diabetes that was suspected to be from the hypogonadism. So it
Yeah,
didn't help so much if the type 2 diabetes was from something else.
right. But it did help if it
It did
was
help if it was from the hypogonadism, which Jazz
right.
essentially is experiencing.
Yeah, because she used to be very, very slender, very skinny almost,
Yeah.
and obviously now she's, excuse me, I think she's what, probably 5'3", and
The internet says 5'2", but I've found some pictures where he's lined up with the family, and it looks more like 5'5", 5'6". And
oh
then
really?
they say yeah, like so I think that figure might be out of date.
Okay,
Um, but in any case, the last figure that I saw on the show was 239 for their weight, and that's definitely too high.
I'm 6'4", and that's more than me,
Oh wow.
and I'm a fairly broad 6'4". So that's quite heavy. If he is 5'6" or 5'5", I wonder how many people that show has affected.
I have other videos up of kids saying that watching that show affected them, and I do believe that it's used especially by parents that want to coach their kids. But I do think it kind of exists to be like this.
Mm. And what do you think that? Do you think that they should bring in any laws to deal with parents that clearly want to do it for their own agenda?
I feel like we have those laws. I feel like they're just not being enforced because we're just making this big exception for them, especially the female genital mutilation laws.
Yes.
Those seem very clear, especially the ones that were in effect federally and at the state level at the time of the underage vaginoplasty. And yes, there must be, well, Florida state law requires that you be protected male or female. So even
Hmm.
though it's an FGM act, it should still apply to males.
Yeah.
Um, I would say under the Florida Constitution. But if we accept their claim that Jazz is a female, then shouldn't it also definitely apply? Isn't that, or did
Yeah,
he not? Did he only become female the moment the surgery was done?
good
Like,
point.
ta-da!
Yeah,
No more cutting.
we're done. Yeah. So,
So it
how
seems like
long?
those were criminal acts. Everything involved in planning that was a criminal act. And
100%.
also
I
giving
think so.
testosterone causes irreversible genital disfigurement, changes in the structure of it.
Right.
So it is permanently enlarged, and that can have consequences. If they're an athlete, that's been used to call into question whether an athlete's doped in the past, um, and may have interpersonal consequences. But it's just it causes a predictable and specific kind of disfigurement, and so it seems like that would still fall under the definition of mutilation because of the result.
Yeah. I mean, I was often thinking because I've seen a few. Oh Christ! I saw a few female to male, back to female, and obviously they still have quite a deep voice.
Right. I've
And
been trying to
does
look
that
into that too. Mhm.
can that go, or have you not? Have you come across whether that can go?
It can improve, but it does not seem to ever return to full baseline.
Yeah.
And my theory of that is that testosterone is known to really affect cartilage formation and synthesis, and cartilage is replacing itself and is in your larynx, but by the time you're an adult, your hyoid bone doesn't change size as much. The rest of you doesn't change size as much. So it's just I've had people who purport to work in intubation, some
Yeah.
capacity where they're intubating people,
Yeah.
say that they've come across people who have a history of testosterone who are hard to intubate because it seems like their larynx is actually has become kinked.
Oh right.
And so my oh, if I was at my office, I would have my model. Oh well.
I was waiting for that.
Darn
I
it.
was waiting for the model.
I have a respiratory model over there, but I don't. Does it have a larynx? It might have a larynx. I have
Have a
a
look.
different model I bought for. You'd be the first to see it. I haven't actually opened it yet. I love anatomical bottles. Does this have a larynx? Yeah, it does have a larynx. Yes.
Oh, get in.
Yes.
Come on.
Okay. It's not my giant larynx one, but
All larynxes are created equal.
oh, this one's so cute. I actually really like this set.
Oh, nice.
Okay, what was my explanation? So this is the larynx. This is the Adam's apple. This ridge right here,
Okay.
and then this is the bone. And then this is your lungs. Goes into your lungs.
Okay.
Let me try this over. So what I suspect is happening is that these blue tissues are perhaps more likely to express testosterone receptors. And so they're
Mhm.
more likely to have their growth stimulated by the testosterone relative to the bone and the other structures. And
Okay.
so we're actually seeing growth in such a way that it is causing it to kind of bow out because there's only
Yeah.
so many places it can go. And that's my best explanation for what I was told by somebody who's observing that in a clinical setting.
Okay.
Um,
Well, that
and
makes
it does
sense.
not seem like that reverses. No, it doesn't. And my other suspicion too is that the increase in muscular size in your actual larynx itself, which would be you can't quite see it, but it would be inside of this thing, right back here, the vocal
Mhm.
folds. You have the muscle, and then you have layers of sheath over the muscle,
Mhm.
and those sheaths do this when you're talking and the air's going up,
Yeah.
and these are kind of like holding it stable, and these are flapping,
Yeah.
and that's a multi-layered sheath that's supposed to kind of move more or less as one, but it can separate and
Okay.
fill with fluid. Miley Cyrus had that happen
Oh
last
yeah,
year.
because
Her voice got all different.
yeah.
From what it was publicly reported, I'm not diagnosing her. She had Ranke's edema, and Ranke's edema is a specific problem where those layers become separated through vocal abuse or through some sort of chemical exposure, smoking. Something causes the connective tissue connecting it to degrade,
Yeah.
inflammation, a virus. We don't actually know what caused it with her,
Yeah.
but then it swelled up, and so instead of moving like this, it was like it
Yeah. Yeah.
was more like a much
More
lower.
bass.
Yeah. Um, So I imagine that possibly the muscles are enlarging and then causing small tears on some of the inner layers, possibly,
Hmm.
and that's scarring and not healing, and that's leading to some of the roughness of the voice.
Hmm.
I also think that at this point that some of the layers are stiffening because we know connective tissue other forms of connective tissue separate from the cartilage are made more and less stretchy
Hmm.
by testosterone and estrogen. So there may be some other factors there where it's becoming stiffer and thicker and not in a way that that goes back.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I've heard quite a few of them that maybe they're even 3 years out, and you can tell that they sound a lot more feminine. You know how women
Hmm.
sound a lot softer, and
Excuse me. Yeah, I believe that the estrogen is doing something. I just really like. I want to put it
yeah,
together. Sorry, I should put it
no
together.
worries.
Ah.
Um, but yeah, no, you can kind of hear that they sound more feminine, but the tone is still very similar.
Yeah. So
That low tone.
I believe that they're not seeing any. It's not going back in terms of the overall like size change within the larynx from the testosterone from the cartilage,
Yeah.
but the lamina propria, that connective tissue sheath, that is somewhat returning back differently with the return of estrogen. And I
Okay.
also think that's why some trans identifying men also have kind of a breathy voice quality. Like there does seem to be a trans feminine voice disorder that some of them can acquire, where they kind of they have sound more breathy, but it doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be a put on. I think some people think it's always a put on. I don't think it's a put on for a lot of them. I think it's actually a result of the hormones.
Interesting, because it does sound. I've never said that, but it does sound kind of
I
like
do
a
think
man.
they're also probably some of them are simultaneously putting them on, but I've heard it in some detrans men who don't seem to be putting it on,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because
and it would make sense with my model of it.
okay, because when so some of them that I listen to, I agree. It sounds kind of it does sound put on, but then they never seem to break. But then there are other people that I've listened to where they kind of sound like that, and then they might do a sort of
Mhm.
sporadic burst out in laughter, and suddenly their
Yeah.
voice is completely
Yeah,
different.
you can fake it. You can definitely
Yeah,
fake breathy.
yeah,
So I think that there definitely are a lot of people trying to mimic it, but I think people associate it with women for a reason. So I think it makes sense that for some of them it would just kind of form that way,
yeah.
depending on their own genetic factors. Um, and it's so hard to know when they haven't like gone through puberty yet, what it's going to do to them.
I know.
Um,
What I don't know. What would you tell? What would you say to a teacher that is allowing a lot of LGBTQ stuff in the curriculum, but no negative stuff,
hmm.
only positive, and is seeing a massive growth in the amount of trans identifying kids in his school, particularly girls, but is an otherwise decent bloke? He's a good guy. I just
Hmm.
think maybe he doesn't know as much as he should, and it's getting out of control. What would you say if he's saying, "Well, I'm not harming anyone. I'm just teaching them to be accepting."
It's a tricky one because their pushback, of course, is just going to be that they don't. Well, why would we automatically include negative things about a minority group? Is the idea that you just want you just want to trash them in some way. So I'm wondering if there's a reframing. Like I feel like framing is so key. You have like maybe
It,
half
it
a
is
second
key.
for them
Yeah,
to register that you're not just the wicked other.
yeah.
You're
It's
not one of
always key.
those people.
Yeah,
Um, and it's just I appreciate that asking about it, but it's like you have to find a way to show them that uh, that this isn't a stable population and that they are actually like recruiting.
yeah,
But it's very much was I feel like almost set up culturally for them to do the propaganda push away from gays or recruiting.
yeah,
And then they introduced this like very very capitalistic, very well funded campaign that actually is recruiting, like very very aggressively for an obvious reason. Like gay people don't really have a reason to recruit, like that scales in the way that trans capitalism scales.
yeah. I think also we're seeing over here at least a lot more lesbians are becoming trans, whereas gays are just staying gay. Like mostly, the gay people that I know really cannot stand the kind of trans thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they tend to stay away from it. But then quite a few lesbians have now kind of moved into the trans territories, and I don't know why.
Mm.
Whether it's because more lesbians want to be a man, and less gays want to be a woman. If you know what I mean? Because I guess if you're a
It
gay
might
man,
be like I don't know that that's completely like
scientific.
outlandish to reject the idea that there's a sex difference there about why uh living in the context that we're living with if you are a lesbian, I feel like, and I really don't want to speak over gay men, but at the same time, there are differences between men and women in terms of whether we're targeted by sexual predators. And so, if you're a lesbian, the odds that you've had unwanted sex, like I just feel is reasonably high. Like it's probably also high for gay men to have unwanted sex, but I feel like it's different because I don't feel like you guys are targeted by women in the same way, or not you guys. I don't know if you're gay actually, but like and
I'm not gay.
therefore okay
Not that I would mind. I'd happily
yeah.
be gay. I'm just not gay.
Okay, sure, sure. So I feel like there you just have a much higher likelihood of having very significant sexual trauma when you're talking about a lesbian and trying to and understand why is she trying to self-obliterate?
Yeah.
Why does she really not want anyone to see her as a woman anymore?
Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish